and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to all of you. Welcome to the Legal Vidya's inaugural class on contract drafting. Today, we marks the beginning of a journey into the meticulous art of articulating legal agreements. Firstly, I would like to introduce Legal Vidya to you all. Legal Vidya is established in 2021. Legal Vidya is dedicated to empowering young lawyers through various educational initiatives. Our much anticipated course on contract drafting represents our commitment to excellence, offering participants the chance to master the art of drafting agreements with finesse. It is an honor to introduce our distinguished speaker, Miss Advocate Bhumi Agarwal ma'am, who brings unparalleled expertise in contract drafting and corporate law. With the specialization in litigation and a passion for corporate law, Bhumi Agarwal ma'am brings a unique blend of skills to the table. Her prowess in contract drafting is unparalleled, making her a sought after authority is the field. Bhumi Agarwal ma'am extensive experience spans across diverse legal arenas, from representing clients in courtrooms to providing strategic counsel in corporate boardrooms. With her guidance, participants will gain invaluable insights and practical wisdom. I request to the participants to please keep your microphones muted and videos off during the session and save your questions for the end. Without further ado, let's welcome Advocate Bhumi Agarwal ma'am to the virtual stage. Over to you, ma'am.
Yes. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So, hello guys. Let's have a small introduction of all of you, and then we can start with the class. So, you guys can one by one just tell me the name and in which year of law school are you in? If you are in a law school, and if you are in litigation or have completed law, then accordingly. So, let's begin with Akansha. Akansha Chaudhary. I guess she's not there. Or you can one by one introduce yourself. Akshay. Just we'll have a small interactive session for 5 minutes and then we can proceed with the class so that I'll be able to figure out that we are on the same page and then I can proceed. Well, Akshay, guys, you all have to speak up, please. Uh, yes, Priyanka.
I'm in second year
You are in second year of law.
Yes.
And where are you from?
Now I'm staying in Greater Noida with all the neighborhoods.
Okay. Okay. Uh,
Good afternoon,
Animesh,
ma'am.
it's better if you guys can just switch on your cameras while you're speaking, if you are comfortable. Yes, Nivedita.
Hi, good afternoon, ma'am.
Good
I
afternoon.
am from Government Law College, Mumbai, and I'm currently in my third year of law school.
Okay, good. Who else? Ojasvi.
Good afternoon, ma'am. My name is Anish, and I'm in the second year of law school, and I'm in Chhattisgarh, Amity.
Okay, good.
Hi, I'm Ojasvi. I'm from NUJS and I'm in my first year.
Okay, good.
That's it.
Hello everyone, I am Bhavya and I'm from NLUO second year.
Anyone else want to introduce themselves?
Uh, Hello, ma'am.
Hello.
Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm Shobika.
Mm-hmm.
I'm from Tamil Nadu. I completed my master's in English, and last year I graduated from LLB.
Okay, so you're an LLB graduate.
Yes, ma'am. I'm
What
graduate.
are you doing currently?
Sorry, ma'am.
What are you currently pursuing? You're pursuing litigation or something else?
Litigation, ma'am.
Okay. In Tamil Nadu.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay, very well.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess no one else want to introduce themselves. We can just proceed with the class. So today we'll be discussing the basics of contract law, and then from the next class onwards, we'll take up the contract drafting things, and we'll discuss on contract drafting and the clauses, how to draft them, and then we'll take each and every contract as per your wish and as per my schedule. So let me share my screen and then we can just proceed with the basics of contract law. I guess everyone must have studied the contract law by now because you all are in second year. Or only one person is from first year, I guess. Is there anyone else who is from first year? Okay, I guess Mohammed, right? Mohammed Bilal, Khushi, Rohan. A lot of you are from first year. Okay, okay. Okay, we'll start from the basics of contract so that whoever is not, just a second. Just let me know if you can see my screen. Is it visible? Any one of you can confirm it.
It is visible, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. So I should first ask you guys, what do you understand by contract? Let's have it a bit interactive session today. So what do you guys know about contract and what is the term contract for you mean? Anyone wants to take the lead? Yes? Anyone? Okay, then I'll randomly ask from you guys. Uh, okay. Nivedita, you're not from first year, right? Am I audible? Paras, can you just check? Is there any connection issue or am I audible?
Audible.
Okay, so just tell me, what do you guys understand from the term contract? Anyone?
Ma'am,
Ma'am, we have some answers in the chat box and someone has raised their hand. So if you could please open the meet once.
So it's difficult for me to open the chat box while in the meeting. So you guys can just unmute yourself and speak up.
Non-enforceable agreements are contracts.
Mm-hmm. Are all agreements contract?
No, ma'am.
Enforceable.
Enforceable agreements are contract. Okay. Anyone else?
ma'am, contract is, the contract is all the things written down in a paper which need to be
Mm-hmm.
carried out in a business or any kind of whatever the contract is made for.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Okay, so I'll carry forward your answer. Suppose if we write on a piece of paper that Ram hires Sham. Ram is hiring Sham for some act where he wants Ram to sell me leaked papers. And for that, I'll be giving Ram 2000 rupees. Will that be a contract? If this is carried, if this is written on a piece of paper, will that be a contract?
Ma'am, adding to that, it should be legally enforceable in law.
Right, exactly. That's the main term you missed out. It's not like everything written on a piece of paper between the two parties is contract, but it should be enforceable and it should be legal. It should have legal object and legal consideration.
Yes.
Yes, so this is what the basic elements of contract are. If you can see here, I'll just share it. Essential elements of contract includes an offer, an acceptance, a promise, then a consideration which should be legal, and then lawful object and lawful consideration, and a free consent. When did the contract law came into force? When did the Indian Contract Act came into force?
1872.
Right, 1st of September 1872. So our Contract Act is basically divided into these parts. Section 1 to Section 75 talks about the general provisions. Then Section 76 to 123 talks about sales of good, which is now being repealed as there is a different act for it, which is Sales of Goods Act. Then 124 to 147 deals with indemnity and guarantee. Then section 148 to 181 deals with bailment and pledge, and 182 to 238 deals with agency. And then again comes a portion which is partnership, which is again covered in a different act now. So, as said, all contracts are agreements, but all agreements are not contracts. For being an agreement to be a contract, it should be legally enforceable. Now, can anyone tell me what is the proposal and under which section is it covered? Yes. Anyone? What is offer? What is proposal?
Ma'am, it is given under section 2A.
Mm-hmm. It's given under 2A, and what does it mean? What does it say? And please don't read and
Ma'am,
tell me. Just tell me
no,
from
ma'am.
what you have understood till now in your law school. What is a basic offer?
Ma'am,
Yes.
when one person shows his willingness to do something to another, it is a proposal.
Sorry.
And when one person shows his willingness to do something to another, it is a proposal or offer.
Right. When someone shows his willingness to have something be done or to abstain someone from doing something, that's an offer or a proposal, which is defined under section 2A of the Indian Contract Act. What is the next step after a offer is made or a proposal is made?
Ma'am, acceptance is the second step.
Yes. What is acceptance?
When a person agrees or to do something or not do something for a consideration, it is acceptance.
Right. And what is essential ingredient for this acceptance?
Ma'am, an essential ingredient for it to be that the acceptance needs to be unconditional. Because whenever a condition is added to it, it will become a counter offer and not an acceptance.
Right. It should be unconditional and it should be communicated. And once the acceptance is communicated, then what it becomes?
It becomes a
Agreement.
Agreement.
No, 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 no. It becomes a promise. It's become promise, which is defined under section 2B. When an offer is accepted, it becomes a promise. And when a promise is fulfilled with a consideration, then it becomes an agreement. So promise plus consideration is agreement. I'll show you here. Proposal plus acceptance leads to promise. Promise plus consideration leads to an agreement. And agreement, when enforceable by law, becomes a contract. Any doubt? So someone has texted a legal agreement between two parties where an offer is made and acceptance is done and consideration is involved there. It's a legal document. Yes. Rajdeep. Yes, absolutely right. So when an offer is accepted, it becomes a promise, which is defined under section 2B. And when a promise is having consideration, then it becomes an agreement. And when an agreement is made in such a way that it is enforceable under law, then it becomes a contract. Okay. Now let's move on to the other part. Is there any doubt? I can explain you with examples as well. If anyone has any doubt, please. Okay, I'm moving forward then. Now, can anyone tell me what is the difference between civil law and common law? What is civil law? What do you
Civil law generally means all the legislative statutes that have been enacted by the parliament, and common law is generally the practice that goes on through precedents and common practice.
Yeah,
of law.
absolutely right. Absolutely correct. That's what it means. So our contract law, does it fall under civil law or contract or common law?
Ma'am, civil law.
Okay. Anyone else? So basically, our Indian Contract Act is harmonized with both civil law as well as common law. If you will see, though it is a legal statute which is having provisions, but we always take the help of common law precedents, the English law, English precedents, which makes the picture more clear for us. So basically, our contract, Indian contract law, is the harmonization of both, integration of both civil law and the common law principles. Suppose just show you an example. Everyone must have heard about the Lalman Shukla versus Gauri Dutt case. Yes or no? Yes or
Yes, ma'am.
no? So it talks about the intention. Was there any intention from the side of Lalman Shukla to accept the offer?
No, he was not informed or he was not aware when he was finding the nephew.
So is there any provision in contract law which says about that there should be an intention to legally bind the other party? Is there any provision? I guess no, right? Okay. There's no provision in the Indian Contract Act which says that the party should be legally binding, that the contract should be in a form or the offer acceptance should be in a form that it should be legally binding. Intention of the parties is nowhere discussed in the Indian Contract Act. But the legal precedents, the English law, the British law, and the precedents set therein, they discuss about the intention, and they say that there should be an intention between the parties to have a legal remedy. To have a legal remedy, what will be the consequences if a particular thing is done in a certain way, and if a particular thing is not done in a certain way? What was the intention behind? Suppose I'll take two examples. Suppose I told my brother that, listen, if you will achieve 80% plus in your board exams, I'll gift you a laptop. Then he got 86%. Am I obligated to give him a laptop? Is there a contract? Is there an agreement between us? Yes or no? Any leads?
No, ma'am.
Why?
Ma'am, because so there was this one case, I don't remember, but where it said that in a family setup, the intention of forming a contract is not there. I
That
don't
case
remember.
was Balfour versus Balfour. Yes.
Yes,
Continue.
ma'am. Yeah.
Hmm.
So, like from that, we can infer that just because you said him that you will be buying a laptop, in a family setup, it does not mean that you intend to make a promise and carry forward the contract.
Right. And why is it so that in a family or a social relationship, we do not consider such promises as a contract?
Um,
Because there is lack of intention of a legal remedy. We never promised with an intention. I never promised my brother that I'll give you a laptop with an intention that he may sue me. And he never accepted that offer and worked hard that he will sue me, sue his sister if she'll not give him the laptop. Right? So there is this ingredient missing, which is a consequence, legal remedy. What will be the legal remedy if this promise will not be fulfilled? So in this family and social relationships, this legal intent is missing. And whenever this legal intent is missing, there is no contract per se. This is what we have obtained from common law perspective, from the precedent set. This is nowhere laid down in the Indian Contract Act. So our Indian Contract Act is the integration of civil law as well as the common law.
yes.
Yes. Now, can you please tell me how many types of contracts are there as per your understanding? How many types of contract are there? Anyone? Or you can take any one name you know from your side that this is a type of contract. 7 types contingent contract. Okay. What is contingent contract, Sanjana? Yes, Sanjana. Implied, express. Grace, if I'm not pronouncing your name wrong. Just unmute yourself and let me know what's the difference between implied and express contract. Quasi contract. A contingent contract is performed after fulfilling a condition. Agree. Okay. Okay.
Oral contract as well as
Sorry.
oral contract.
Oral contracts. Okay. Now I'll share my slide. So we'll discuss about few types of contract. First is express contract. Everyone knows that express means when you explicitly agree on certain things in writing or orally. So here's an example. A and B enter into a written agreement for the sale of goods, explicitly stating the price, quantity, and delivery items. This is an express contract. So what we learn today in the further classes will be an express contract, how to draft an express contract, right? What is implied? Implied contracts are inferred from the conduct of the parties or circumstances surrounding the transactions. Suppose A orders goods for B's store and B delivers the goods without any discussion about the price. Based on their past dealings, it is implied that B will have to pay, A will have to pay B for the goods upon delivery, creating an implied contract. Now, can anyone explain this with their example? If you have example, illustration, anything, implied contract, difference between both. Surjit Sarkar. I know it's afternoon, you must have done your lunch, you must be sleepy, but please speak up, guys. Yes, someone unmuted.
Ma'am, suppose X had asked me to take a packet of sugar from one place to another. In an express contract, I'll be expressly saying him that yes, I'll be doing it. And in an implied contract, I might just take a sugar from one place to another, and that's the implied way of doing it.
Okay, well, right. So now, in case you take that sugar without any consideration, will that be an implied contract?
No, ma'am. So, in the contract itself, there might be price written there, right? That for taking the sugar from one place to another, you will be paid this much of amount.
That's an express contract.
Ma'am, so an implied contract, maybe the another person might be doing something else for me.
Okay. Suppose you're continuously doing something for someone. Like in case of, so I'll take a practical example. I entered into a contract with Ojasvi that Ojasvi for 1 year, you will be doing this delivery for me. I'll be giving you the products. You will deliver these products to XYZ person. And I'll pay you 2000 rupees per delivery, suppose. So this is an express contract I made. But I did not mention that this contract will be ended by the end of this date or on this date. And further, I continued that Ojasvi, today you have to go to this person and deliver this product to him. So in case you are doing that, I gave you that product, you received the product from my warehouse. I did not communicated that you have to do this, but because you were doing that task from the past 1 year, and now today when you receive the products, you thought that this is my implied duty that I have to go there, I have to deliver this to that person, and then I'll receive 2000 rupees from the other party. So this becomes an implied contract that you were already doing something for me, but that time it was an express contract because it was written, it was expressly told by me to you orally. But now this time, though it has not been expressly, explicitly told to you by from my end, either through writing or orally, but still you have received the goods from my end and you have been doing this task for a very long time. And today also, if you have received this task, it's your implied contract that you will go there, you will deliver, and then I'll have to pay you because that's implied, because I did not express that this contract has come to an end. Getting that?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh. Now what are void contracts? Void contracts. Everyone must have heard about void and voidable contracts, right? While using some online service, they put a caption that you want to use these services, you have to accept it. Ayaz, you have written that while using some online services, they put the option like you want to use their services, you have to accept it. What is this? Is this an implied or an express contract? What is this? Tell me. Because we'll be working on this. We'll be working on this agreement. Ayaz, this is implied contract. No, Ayaz, this is an express contract. Because they have communicated it to, and you, by clicking on that, I accept, you are accepting that expressly. So that's an express contract. That's not an implied contract. Contracts are not enforceable by law and are null in nature. Okay, Vaishnavi. These are void contracts. Agreement not enforceable by law. Okay. Void contracts are agreements not enforceable by law and are null and void from the beginning, meaning there were never any contract like contract. Okay. And what are the void? So I have received a number of responses for the void contracts. Now tell me, what are voidable contracts? And then I'll tell you the difference between both of them.
They are not valid contracts. They are more like voidable at the option of a party. I'm not.
Right, absolutely right.
Ma'am, they are not even illegal. I mean, they're not illegal in law. It's just that they have not fulfilled the criteria, so it's voidable.
Right. So I'll give you an example. I'll even rather raise a question. Suppose I entered into a agreement with Nivedita saying that I'll pay you X amount. Just a second. Contracts which are initially valid but they can be void at the option of the agree are voidable contracts. Yes, Priyanka, right. So I entered into a contract with Nivedita explaining her that these are the terms, but Nivedita did not understand the contract and signed on it saying that okay, I agree. My intention was something else, she understood something else, and she accepted the contract. Will that contract be later void or voidable?
Ma'am, it's voidable because there is no consensus in them. If she agrees that okay, I'm agreeing on this, like whatever the actual intention was, then the contract can be fulfilled, or else she can just get the contract.
Right, absolutely right. Anyone else was saying something? Okay, yes, absolutely right. When the intention and when there is no consensus between the parties, then that contract may be voidable at the option of the other parties. That's a voidable contract. But if you are entering into a contract which is not enforceable by law or which is illegal in the eyes of law, then that's a void contract. Suppose a contract for, if suppose I hire someone, XYZ person, to murder, suppose, A person, then that contract for any consideration will be a void contract from the very point I entered into it, from the initial day of contract. So that's a void contract. Otherwise, which is though was valid at the time of entering into the contract, but due, one second. One second, guys. Yes, there's some issue. Yes, can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, let's move onward. What are bilateral and unilateral contracts? And can we enter into a unilateral contract with someone? I'll go by the definition now. Bilateral contracts involve promises exchanged between two parties where each party is both a promiser and a promisee. Suppose A agrees to sell his car to B for rupees X and B agrees to pay the amount upon delivery. Both A and B have made promises to each other, forming a bilateral contract. And on the other hand, what are unilateral contracts? Unilateral contracts, A offers a reward of rupees 10,000 to anyone who finds and return his lost dog. B finds the dog and returns it to A. A is now legally obligated to pay B the reward, forming a unilateral contract. When there are two parties involved which are making promises to each other for some or the other thing or some or the other consideration, then that becomes a bilateral contract. And when a party where only one party is making a promise to the other in exchange of performance of something from the other party, then that becomes a unilateral contract. Just give me one example of bilateral contract. Yes, an example of bilateral contract.
Mom, when a thing is bought for a price, it is a bilateral contract.
Employment contract is like a bilateral contract.
Yes, employment contract. I was expecting these type of answers. Employment. Is NDA a bilateral contract, non-disclosure agreement, or it's a unilateral contract?
India are both kind of the whether it is a bilateral and unilateral both are there are two
Yes,
kinds of in India.
absolutely right. Absolutely right. NDAs are both. It can be unilateral as well as bilateral. Okay. So now tell me how many types of contracts are there? What whatever you know. Any type of contract that you know. This time I'm not asking about the contracts written in Indian Contract Act, the daily life contracts or the agreement you have seen, you know. Because from the next class onward, we'll be drafting on contracts only. So let's see. Let's explore your interest and then we'll start accordingly with those contracts.
Mom, service contracts.
Okay. Service, what kind of service? Ojasvi?
Mom, it can be any kind, like I doing work for somebody, then that person might have some criterias like I should be doing it in such ways. So that can be a service contract.
So will that be a commercial or non-commercial contract?
Mom, commercial, if it depends on the kind of work I will be doing.
Right. Property agreement. Okay. What else? Has any one of you ever drafted an agreement or a contract or anything? Have you guys ever drafted it?
Yes, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
There are so many like three-party agreement, a business agreement, rent agreement, lease agreement, and there are so many agreements which we can consider into the commercial agreements.
Right. Non-commercial?
Like writing to the letters to the authorities, yeah, like non-contentious and non-contentious part.
I didn't get you. Writing letters to the authorities as in?
Yeah, it is it will be considered in a non-commercial.
Writing letters to the parties, how can that be an
No, no,
agreement?
no. To the authorities.
To the authorities, writing letters to the authorities, how can that be an agreement?
You while you are using some authorities means if example if you are using their license, okay, and their rent agreement or their department or something, then you can consider it as an non-commercial agreement for them.
No, writing letters does not mean an agreement.
Okay, okay, sorry, ma'am.
Right. Writing letters is completely different. You are doing something, you are fulfilling your obligation under the agreement. Suppose we have a clause in the agreement that if in case a dispute arises, I'll not straight away go into the litigation or the arbitration, but I'll write a letter to you or I'll provide a notice to you, which will be 30 days prior to initiating any litigation to solve a dispute. So then that letter will be an obligation which you have agreed into a contract, into an agreement. Through an agreement, you were obliged to do certain things. You were obliged to write a letter. That's not an agreement per se in itself. So basically, commercial contracts are the contracts related to any business, and non commercial contracts are the contracts entered for the purposes other than the business. That may involve personal or social relationships as well. Suppose a marriage contract, if is there, maintenance, settlement contracts, settlement agreements, that are non commercial agreements. Settlement agreements are the basic contracts and agreements which we see in our day to day life if you are into litigation. A landlord entering into a lease agreement with the tenant for a residential property, that's a non commercial agreement. Whereas on the other side, if you are entering into a distributorship agreement that is for your business growth, then that will be a commercial agreement. Similarly, there are different types of agreements like government contracts. You must have read about or heard about the tenders that government publishes tenders which are accepted by XYZ person, and then they enter into a contract like building of an agreement entered for building of roads, for railway tracks. All these agreements with the builder or the party or the manufacturer or the production house, these all agreements are covered under the government contracts. The agreements which are entered between one government entity and the other private entity for the procurement of certain goods or services, construction projects, etc. Then there is other type of agreement which is consumer contracts. Now, what are consumer contracts? Consumer contracts are the contracts which we, the consumers in a day to day life, enter into. Suppose we have bought uh, a bed sheet from an Amazon. So we have entered into an agreement with Amazon. We are the consumer, Amazon is the service provider. Now, Amazon is obliged under that agreement to deliver us the product on a certain date, which is written in its agreement, and we are obliged to pay him that money on the delivery. Right? So that is something called consumer contract.
Ma'am,
Right. Yes.
how do we differentiate commercial contracts, which is also used for business, and these consumer contracts, which might be used for, like, say, the goods or anything that is related to business?
So commercial contracts are, as I said, commercial contracts are between business entities. That is for business purpose.
But one party is somehow a consumer and one party is service provider. So is there any point like that differentiate
Your
between
voice is
different
not
parties?
clear. You can just write it in the chat box. You can just write it in the chat box. I'll revert back. I guess your query is how are commercial contracts different from consumer contracts, right? Yes. So let's read it. Let's read it. Commercial contracts are agreements entered into by a businessman for commercial purposes, including sale of goods, provision of services, and business partnerships. Commercial contracts encompass a wide range of transactions, including sale agreements, service agreements, distribution agreements, franchise agreements, joint venture agreements. They will be governed by the Indian Contract Act and other commercial laws. For example, a manufacturing company enters into a distribution agreement with the distributor to sell its products in a specific region. The agreement outlines the terms such as pricing, distribution rights, and marketing responsibilities, constituting a commercial contract. Now let's read consumer contracts. Consumer contracts are agreements between businesses and consumers for the sale of goods or provision of services to individuals for their personal use. Now, what term is used here is personal use, right? And what term used here is for the commercial purpose. Personal use and commercial purpose. If you are ordering a bed sheet from Amazon, that is for your personal use, right? So if you are entering into a contract with Amazon for something which you will use personally, then you are a consumer. And then that contract will fall under the consumer contract. But on the other hand, if we'll say commercial contract, then commercial contract will be like if we are a wholesaler and we are purchasing a bulk of material from Amazon. Suppose we are asking Amazon to send us 24 pair of bed sheets. Then in that case, we'll be entering into a commercial contracts. In both these contracts, the terms will be different. Getting my point? Understood. Okay. Anyone else has any query? Okay. Then other contract, which is my personal favorite, these are the international contracts. So we'll have a great time drafting the clauses of these international contracts. Anyone can tell me what are the international contracts? Hurry up. Who will tell me? International contracts. With an example.
Ma'am, it can be in
Ma'am, can treaties be international contracts?
Sorry, Shreya, yes, speak.
Can treaties be international contracts?
Yes, treaties can come in international contracts.
Like Indus Water Treaty.
Absolutely. Treaties can come under the international contracts. Anyone
Ma'am,
else?
we can have ISSU agreements that can be international contracts when the majority shareholders is an international entity or a bank.
Okay. So these are the few contracts, but in a day-to-day life, if we'll see, there are a lot of MNCs today, right? We are purchasing a lot
Can
of
bill of
products. Yes, Ojasvi?
ma'am, can bill of lading be a international contract? I mean, if the shipping is done from internationally.
Yes, yes, absolutely. If a shipping is done from an international, from a company which is based in foreign, and export import of goods, Akansha, yes, that can also be an international contract. So I'll tell you, I was drafting a contract recently in which we were the engineers in India and we were purchasing few of the products for our machines from the foreign country. So for that, we entered into a manufacturing agreement with that country. So this is an international contract, that a contract in which one party is based in the local country and the other party is a foreign country, foreign based market, or a foreign based party. If we are in which is based in France, and we are here in India, then the contract between our company and the company based in France will be an international contract. Okay. Okay. Ma'am, can the two governments from different countries sign a contract? Yes. Yes, they can. That's what treaty means. When the governments of different nations come together and sign a contract, that is a treaty. So now tell me, anyone has any doubts? Any doubts regarding the basics of contract? Ma'am, can two governments from example FTA free trade agreement? Yes. Anyone has any doubt? Anything related to contract law? Because from the next class onward, we'll not be discussing about the contract law, but we'll straight away start with the drafting thing.
Ma'am,
Yes, Sanjana?
ma'am, once can you please explain the difference between express contracts and implied contracts?
Yes. Let me share the screen. Okay. So now let's read it together. Express contracts are those in which the terms and conditions are explicitly agreed upon by the parties, either orally or in writing. Now, what's its application in the Indian Contract Act? Section 9 of the Indian Contract Act recognizes express contracts, stating that an agreement is formed by words either spoken or written, which includes both oral as well as written agreements. Then let's take an example. Suppose if A and B enter into a written agreement for the sale of goods, explicitly stating the price, quantity, and delivery items, this is an express contract. Let's go on to the implied contracts. Implied contracts are inferred from the conduct of the parties or circumstances surrounding the transaction rather than being explicitly stated. Now, Section 9A of the Indian Contract Act recognizes implied contracts, stating that the conduct can create an implied promise. Now, let's take an example for this as well. A orders good for B's store and B delivers the goods without any discussion about the price. Based on their past dealings, it is implied that A will pay B for the goods upon delivery, creating an implied contract. As an example, I have already stated earlier that suppose I was doing a certain task or certain act for XYZ person from a long duration, and now either if it is not expressly stated by the XYZ person to me that Bhumi, you go and do a particular task, and I did that because there was no express stoppel from their side that yes, no, this is terminated, our agreement is terminated, and I am continuously doing that, then that will constitute to an implied contract, which is based on our understanding, which is based on a prior transaction, which is based on our understanding, surroundings. Suppose one enters into an employment agreement, right? So there are XYZ terms which are expressly stated, but it is an implied duty on our part to do certain things. So that comes under the implied contract. Getting my point?
Understood, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes. Anyone else? Any questions, guys? Okay, so now I just want one answer from you. What type of contracts you want me to start with? Commercial, non-commercial, international, what kind of contracts you want me to start with in the next class. We'll take up one contract on a particular day and then we'll proceed further. I'll commercial contract. Yes, Khushi raised their hand. Khushi, wanna speak something? Okay. Commercial contracts. Okay. So on the next class, we'll be dealing with the commercial contracts. I'll tell you some basics, some clauses which is used in all the commercial contracts, and then we'll take up one example and I'll ask you also to draft with me, and then I'll be assigning an assignment to you, which we'll discuss on the next class. So, or we can do it simultaneously, we can draft and then we can discuss over the clauses of that. Will that work? So let's take 1 second. So in the next class, let's discuss about the distributorship agreement or any other agreement thereafter. Okay, guys, so let's wind up our today's class.
Ma'am, will you share the PPT?
If you want, I can share this PPT with you. Do you want the PPT?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'll share it with Paras, and Paras, you can share it with them.
Thank you, ma'am.
Sure, ma'am.
Yes.
Oh, ma'am, will you also be sharing a copy of the agreement that we will be discussing in the next class?
I'll be giving you the assignments at the end of every class, and then we'll discuss your agreements, and post our discussion on your agreements, I'll share my agreement. Okay. So, guys, it will be
Yes,
a
ma'am.
very interactive class because contract drafting is not a lecture, it's a practical thing. So, it's better if we'll come along and do the things simultaneously. I'll draft a clause, you tell me your clause, what according to you should be better. So, in that way, it will be a practical class, not an learning a proper theoretical class where I'll dictate and you will just listen to me. Getting my point? So from next time, I want you guys to be prepared for that. All of you, please get involved. All of you, just open your cameras, be interactive. I want an interactive class because in that sense only we'll be able to learn contract drafting. It's a very interesting thing, contract drafting. Once you will get a grasp of it, you'll enjoy it. So from next class, please, whosoever was not comfortable interacting today, please guys, it's a request, come forward and just interact. Okay, so I'll be ending this class for today.